Welcome back, folks, to the Membership Machine Show. This is episode 57. In this episode, we're going to be discussing the basic costs to start and run a membership website. You know, I think there's some misunderstandings here. I think we're going to have some great information and advice here. I also got my regular co-host on the other podcasts that I do, the WP-Tonic show. I've got Kurt with me. He's got a great deal of experience around membership. So, Kurt, do you want to quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Sure thing, Jonathan. My name is Kurt Von Onen. I own an agency called Mañana No Mas. We deal primarily in membership and learning websites. And of course, I work with WP-Tonic and Lifter LMS as well.
And you got your own podcast, haven't you? What's your podcast?
I do. The Mañana No Mas podcast.
Right. You want to go and listen to that, folks. It's got a great deal of knowledge around running a business and membership. So, like I say, we're going to go into the basic costs of cloud and self-hosted, comparing the different costs, the different platforms, giving you a ball figure, giving you some idea about the general costs in this area. But before we go into the meat and potatoes of this great episode, I've got a couple of messages from our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
We're coming back, folks. Also want to point out we've got a new sponsor of the show for the next month. It's OmiSend. OmiSend, and if you're on the hosted platform and WordPress, in other words, folks, and you want to send text messages, SMS messages to your membership, to your students, they've got a great plugin. They were big, still are big in Shopify, the world of e-commerce, and they're building a sizable following in WordPress, in e-commerce, and in membership. To find out more about their offer, they've got a great special offer. To find all this out, all you have to do is go over to wp-tonic.com/deals, wp-tonic.com/deals. Not only will you find this offer, but there's some other great offers from the other sponsors, plus a curated list of the best WordPress plugins and services that enable you to build an effective membership website on WordPress. What more could you ask for? Probably a lot more, but that's all you're going to get from that page. Right, so let's delve in. So let's do a quick intro. What, based on your experience, Kurt, what do you think are some of the biggest misunderstandings about costs, about running, let's say, on WordPress or self-hosted, before we go to a SaaS platform like Kajabi? What do you think are some of the main misunderstandings, things you've observed in general?
I think some of the main misunderstandings, and this is general, it doesn't matter if we're talking about WordPress or SaaS or whatever, is the commitment required to build and host a membership property, a membership site. I don't think enough people put enough thought into what they actually want that membership property to do as far as emails, communication. And I think that lack of planning causes them to make poor decisions downstream.
Yeah, can you put a bit more insight, a bit more context around that?
Yeah. So how many times are you, and probably shouldn't bring my personal habits into this, but you're having an adult beverage with somebody at a nice establishment. Someone says, "Hey, you work on the internet. I was thinking I had a really cool idea," because everybody has cool ideas. and they start trying to tell you this cool idea and stretch it out on a napkin and start to pencil some things down. And then you start asking questions like, well, do you want to charge people money for this? Oh, I could do that. Yeah. You're going to need a payment gateway for that. How are you going to communicate with these folks? Well, I just thought the website would do it. And you're like, the website will do it if you equip the website to do it. So what kind of tools are you looking at to do that? And when you start trying to break it down, they're like, well, I just thought I would build this thing and it would just create revenue. And it's like, no, this, I've got to start having conversations with people about the long game and the work that it takes and the forethought that it takes to build a good site that you can launch. And then that comes into kind of what we'll talk about today, right? So what are the tools that people consider essential for a membership site? And what packages have those tools, and what do those things cost? What's your investment?
Yeah, I think the other costs, I think what they don't understand is that we've discussed this on other shows, is you got to do got to have a plan, do some research online, have a look at the SaaS. I've got criticism about my position here. So people say, well, the show, why do you discuss SaaS? I thought it should be all about WordPress, and I'll get other people from the SaaS. Well, you seem to talk a lot about WordPress, and my position is, yeah, I believe in WordPress, but I'm not naive. It depends on circumstance, on the individual and what they want to do about what platform they might in the end utilize. There is no perfect platform out there. There just isn't. It's just really the individual, what really is important for them. For me, digital ownership, digital sovereignty is really quite important. If I'm building a business, I don't really, unless I have to, I do not want a lease. I want as much ownership over it as possible. So, but other people have a different attitude, and there is no right and way. I think the other thing they misunderstand, Kurt, is you got to build up, before you launch your membership website, you'd be advised to try and build your own tribe. And what I mean by that is, to build some Twitter following, or X, whatever it's called, or Facebook following, or YouTube following, or TikTok following, or any following. Doesn't matter what platform. These platforms are just tools to enable you to build a following, your own little tribe. And to try and get that tribe to a landing page or a website where you can offer them something to get their email. Because if you've got a small email list and you can email your membership and get that initial wheel rolling, this whole thing's going to go much easier than not. And I think a lot of people don't get their tribe before they try and launch their membership. Is this making sense, Kurt?
It makes 100% sense. The tribe aspect is huge. How many times have you or I or someone in our peer group, have talked about, meeting with a client that has, great idea on a napkin, but when you talk about, where's your audience? Where's, some marketers would say, what's your avatar? What's your perfect person that would come and purchase this? You want that answer to be somebody that's already in my Facebook group, or somebody that is a regular customer of my existing business, or something. You want some kind of a connection already. But a lot of folks don't have that avatar pictured, and they don't have that customer base or audience pre-built. So that becomes another obstacle in the launch process.
Yeah, so there's a cost, but the cost is not so much financial, unless you're going to use paid advertising. But I would advise you, unless you already got a big tribe, that you utilize free. Even if you got some money, I wouldn't advise you until you got your initial students in your membership and you got feedback, and then you can observe what they really like about your course, what they don't. And then if you've got a little bit of money, you can look at paid advertising. But I think blogging, content, marketing, YouTube, all the things I've just mentioned to build a community, a tribe, as I call it, is the way to go. And that doesn't really, apart from time, a lot of these platforms, the beauty of it, folks, is you're just swapping your time and energy to try and build that initial tribe. It doesn't actually, you can post stuff. If it's more professional, you just post stuff on LinkedIn. They love your posting, and it will be shown to a much bigger audience than Facebook. One of the problems with Facebook now is that unless you put a bit of money in, your posts, your activity won't be seen. So Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube are better, or TikTok or Instagram. To some extent, these are much better platforms because they allow, without paying, they allow people to see your content. What do you reckon, Kurt?
Yeah, it's the growth thing is very difficult for people to comprehend if they're new to the digital marketing frame set. I've had tremendous success on LinkedIn. You know, I joke around on the show a lot. You know, I'm the only Kurt Fun on it on LinkedIn. Let's connect. But, you know, I went from 1,200 connections to almost 10,000 connections in 3 years. And I've had conversations with 3,000 of those people. You know, it's a very active, huge community. And so I go back to, you know, think about your audience, think about your group. Do you have a small audience, but it's very active? Or do you have like this big number that's, you know, anonymous in an Instagram account somewhere? You know, you really have to look at what's the quality of your audience, what's the quality of your tribe, as Jonathan would say, and then what is your influence over that tribe to get them to, you know, what's in it for them to give you an email address and be part of your community. And from there, you can look at, you know, the tools we're going to discuss. Jonathan, you're all about digital sovereignty, and I get that. That's one of my priorities. But another priority for me is when I launch a project or when I help a customer launch a project, we really don't know how big it's going to get, right? And I always think about scalability. And so when I look at some of the SaaS solutions, sometimes they seem like an all-in-one kit and it answers all these questions for the startup. But there's a lot of limitations or brick walls that people run into if it actually takes off and goes. And so, you know, I look for those limitations and how to overcome those limitations in my solutions.
Well, that's the other thing, because no matter how much research you do on the different platforms, until you start utilizing them, and also until you get a few students going through your membership, and finding out what they really like and what they don't, it's really hard to know that platform that you chose. So one of the nice things about WordPress is that it's modular. You're utilizing major Lego bricks, which are the plugin structure. I just see them as modules, and you're bolting modules together. And if a particular module doesn't work, there's normally a lot of other choices, and you can find a blend of modules that will allow you to do the things that you or your students want. The problem with a SaaS platform is the bigger ones that are Swiss Army knives, which are attractive because they save money. But the problem is, as you learn the ins and outs of the platform, and you learn the requirements of the student base and what, in business terms, you need to do with your membership to appeal to your students, you might hit a brick wall. And then you've got the cost of moving, especially if you've got you've managed to get the wheel moving, and you've got 100, 200, 300 students. Moving platforms to a whole new platform is totally achievable, but it's not the most pleasant experience. You know, it's work, it's extra work, but that's what I say. So it's cloud or self-hosting. Let's start with self-hosting. Like I say, to me, it's WordPress. So basically, got to buy domain names. I would advise, don't buy your domains through Google. don't buy your domains through the big daddy, GoDaddy, and don't go with the cheapest option because it can bite you on the backside. What's your own thoughts about that?
I have had clients on all imaginable ways of registering a URL. And I'll just throw it out there, Jonathan. I think Cloudflare is one of the most direct and easiest and affordable ways to go. I don't at this stage of the game, I'm not even sure why we would discuss the others.
Well, I'll interrupt him because actually their interface, the initial finding where you can buy and doing the search, they don't do a great idea of making it clear.
Yeah, you got to sign up first and then get access to the
That's
domain
not
name.
great. Where GoDaddy and some Namecheap, they're better. They're better than GoDaddy, but I find their interface and especially the time they take to repoint a domain to another server, I just find them not the best. And there's some others. There's a lot of them around.
You know,
But
who I used to use Bluehost to register URLs.
yeah,
And
how would they?
they were very straightforward. And what I'm going to say next is going to sound weird to some. I never had a problem with their customer service. I would just pick up the phone, dial it. I mean, I still have it in my phone, and they would always be helpful. Always, and I hosted sites with them for years. I outgrew it. I think they're great for proof of concepts and stuff like that. But as far as registering domains, I found that to be pretty straightforward. I did migrate most of them over to Cloudflare over time, but I just found Cloudflare to be a better service.
Yeah, they are, and it might be $1, $2 per year more expensive than the most cheapest, but we're talking about $1 to $2. And the reason why it's important is, if something technical comes up, well, I say don't use Google because they offer absolutely no support, and if anything goes wrong, it's just a nightmare.
Just call the 1-800 number.
Try and get hold of anybody in Google. Good luck to you. And also, I think they're getting out of that business. I think they're moving it to Squarespace. They sold it to Square. The other thing is, if you're looking to host your site, not on WordPress and not on a more specialized service like Kajabi, you're looking at Squarespace or you're looking at Wix. Do not buy your domains through Squarespace or Wix. If you ever want to leave the platform, they make it extremely painful to migrate the domain. That talk about make you jump through hoops. It's ridiculous to do. And to be truthful, never. This is just my opinion. I'll be interested to see Kirk's. Never buy your domain name through your hosting provider. We don't do it. We don't offer it. We'll help you buy one if you need our assistance, and we suggest you buy it through Cloudflare and through our white glove service. We'll go through that if that's necessary. You haven't purchased one. But never buy your domain names through the hosting provider. You will regret it. What do you reckon about that?
That's one that I've never really aligned with because I never really understood why. Like I said, I did domains with Bluehost and hosted with them, and then I moved my sites and then eventually moved the URLs around. But I never saw it as a conflict, But I don't know. That's like some people that say, don't put your CRM in your website. Keep it separate. Sometimes it works great inside the site. I don't know.
Yeah, I base my experience a lot. We had a client recently with Bluehost, and they were a bit slow. My experience also with GoDaddy, it's been just like pulling teeth out. They do not want to do it. They make it, and it's just cleaner. This is just my opinion. You avoid there is a conflict. They're in business. you give WP-Tonic a month's notice. We'll help you migrate it. We'll help you get it set up somewhere else. There's no argument. You just give a month's notice. Boom. The reason we ask for a month, folks, is that we offer a load of plugins and other services, and we have to decouple those. But you don't get any argument as long as you give us a month's notice. And we help you move it. So, but it's just take me. You have a bit. I understand why people do it because it's just easier. But don't do it. Buy the domain somewhere else and get your hosting somewhere else. Just take my word for it, folks. So domains, how much do they cost? I don't get fixated about getting a .com. Any .com that probably's got a really marketing edge to it, it's probably taken, and they want thousands for it. If you don't, I think it's still beneficial to go with .com, but don't get fixated about it. There's other, and this should cost you what, depending from Cloudflare, even a .com. .com's probably going to be under $20 a year, isn't it? If you're not going for one of the higher value ones, and the price can go to the stratosphere depending on what you're after. Non.coms you probably can get for about $8-9 a year. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, sounds about right.
So it's not, but I get people that the other thing there are people that made a fantastic living because they bought domains. They're domain dealers, and that's their business. And I've got other people I don't understand. They've got like 20, 30, 40, 50 domain names. It adds up, folks. I've got too many. I think I've got about 10. I need to prune them down a bit because I'm not going to use them. Yeah, don't be one of those. I think that's a bit bonkers. Now, and I would say the same thing if you're going to SaaS cloud. Do not, if you can, do not buy the domain through them. And I think with Squarespace and Wix or some of the others, I think with Kajabi, you've got to buy it somewhere else. I'm not sure about that. I have to clarify. I think that was the last time I helped somebody with Kajabi. But if it's a choice, do not buy it through them. Buy it somewhere else and point the DNS. It's one more loop, but there's plenty of instructions out there, and you just have a better experience. Now, I think the other thing is, so you bought your domain, now the hosting. We've done a whole episode on the membership about hosting costs. I think anything below $25 for a membership that has a learning management system and some of the other tools when it comes to WordPress or some of the other solutions, cloud solutions, I think you're going to be looking at around $50 cloud, and I think you can look at $30 to $35 to start off with WordPress. That's just pure hosting. That's not including plugins, email, everything. I think Kajabi, if you go the Kajabi route and some of its competitors, you'd be looking at, if you're going month to month, you'd be looking at $150. If you go with some of less feature rich, I think they do start at around 30. Well, I look at around $50. So I think WordPress, you can start between 30 and 35. Cloud, about $50 if you budget that roughly. What do you think of what I just said?
You're in the ballpark. Yeah, absolutely.
caught me out there. I thought you were going to say some more there. I was chinning down my coffee. All right. I was relying on you there, Kirk.
I'm sorry, but you're the expert as far as the costs and stuff go on those areas. And I have a lot of clients that come to me on $3 hosting and $4 hosting and want to build the world on it. And it's a 30-minute discussion to say, you want to build the world on this thing and you want to put 100 people in it. It ain't going to run. You got to put,
well, it will run until you even get your first, if you're utilizing something like Lifter LMS or you're using LearnDash. And now I want to make it clear, if we're talking about Lifter with BuddyBoss or LearnDash with BuddyBoss, or we're talking about Mighty Networks or Circle, that Mighty Networks have a plan for around $39 that starts off with. I think that's the annual plan. Don't kid yourself. Soon as you'll be on the higher plan pretty soon. And that's I forgot what that is on Mighty Networks. Now,
$100 a month.
Easy. And you'll be looking at some of the other plans, right? Just take my word for it, folks. Now, when it comes to BuddyBoss, great platform. Did a show last week with Haroon about it. We've done a dive. We're gonna be doing a couple of other, not podcasts, but on the YouTube channel. If you're looking at that, you're looking at 150, 200 realistically for hosting resources for any BuddyBoss site that's got Lifter installed and you got your first batch, you'd be looking at around 200. We offer it on a lower plan for people that want to try it out, but I'd make it clear to them, if you get your first batch of students, you'll be on your higher plan because it needs a load of resources. If you get into hundreds on BuddyBoss, hundreds, thousands, you're going to have to you'll be looking around the 500 mark, but you should be profitable. That's just the reality. And based on my experience, folks, that's what you're going to be looking at Mighty Networks or Circle if you're going that route with that, hundreds and hundreds of, you'll be looking at the higher plans, just trust me, because these tick up and they get their resources. But the cost of cloud, it's more configuration and knowing how to deal with caching and those issues and going with a good provider, cloud provider. All our hosting is cloud, but it's configured correct, and we manage the caching individually for each website. We found that the best way to go. But there's a lot of propaganda out there, isn't there, Kurt, that you can build anything. Because I'm just telling you, folks, you can build it out, but as soon as you get your first couple of live students, the complaints are just going to start coming in that the back end's slow, we can't log in, we can't see our courses, we got this, that, the other. It's endless with these cheap. So starting between $25, for $30 to $35, you start off and you can get your first students in, and you're just not going to have a miserable experience. What do you reckon? Yeah,
it's when you mention the caching, it's almost, I feel like we need to warn people, because I'm thinking about who our listener is right now, right? Who's new to this kind of web product, who's new to using this. Because when you have caching issues, it's not super, there's not a red flag that comes up that says you're having a caching issue, please flush your cache. It's usually something bizarre. You make a change to the website, you go to the front end and the change isn't there. You have a customer that signs up and then sends you an email saying, hey, I just paid you $100 and I can't access the course, right? It's something weird like that. And so when your website isn't doing what you think it's supposed to do, one of the first things to do is flush the cache, try to recreate the issue. And then that you've got a caching issue. And now you got to hunt that down. And if you don't have a good host or a communicative host, it can be a little bit of a burden figuring it out.
Yeah. Because you also got the mixture of CDN, content management. Oh, my mind's going blank. Platforms that cache large files and that. It's the major pain when it comes to membership learning management systems. Obviously, it's one of the attractions of going to a cloud system like Kajabi, because that's one area you won't be dealing with. But if you go with the right hosting provider, unfortunately, two of the most, in general, very, very good hosting providers, WP Engine and Kinsta, because they're such large companies and learning management systems and community websites are only a small part of. They're great people. They're very reputable hosting providers, but you're still going to have trouble because their hosting isn't geared up for this specific niche. It just isn't, and it can be painful. Right. The other thing, I'm going to be very controversial here, Kirk, and you're probably not going to agree with me. I was in two minds to say this, but I don't think it's great. We're hybrid at WP-Tonic, but I put my hand on my heart. If you want to leave us, you give us a notice. We'll migrate you anywhere you want to go. Right? No question. Don't let your developer host for you. It's not a great idea. If that person gets run over by a bus, you have an argument with them. It can get difficult very quickly. It's best to have your domain somewhere else, have your hosting somewhere else. And if you need help with your WordPress or whatever you're building, you wouldn't let, if you're on Kajabi, you wouldn't let, if somebody was helping you build your site out on Kajabi, and there's a whole industry of consultants for Mighty Networks, where one of our guests is a Mighty Network expert. She's going to be joining us next week. You wouldn't buy it through her. You wouldn't buy your Mighty Network website through her. You wouldn't buy your Kajabi website through a consultant. Or if you did, you need your mind examined. You buy it and then you hire people. It's the same with WordPress. Do not buy your hosting provider get it through your developer. You're mixing. You're going to end up in a jumble. I don't like it. I never have. It's mixing. It's a bit like mixing personal with business. It always bites you on the rear. So, Kirk, you're not going to agree with this, are you? So, what do you think?
I really don't see any issue with having your developer do the hosting. It depends on what the relationship is. If you want to have it built and go away, that's one thing. If you want to have an ongoing maintenance-oriented relationship with that person, it becomes more of a partnership. And let's face facts. If someone came to me and said, hey, I want to do a WordPress site. I bought this cool hosting package on GoDaddy and I want to hire you to build it there. Okay, sure, we'll do that. But that's going to have a GoDaddy surcharge on it, because there's always some kind of a hurdle or something to jump over to make something happen there. Whereas if it's hosted in the platform I'm most familiar with, I'm the most efficient with it, right? And so I can think of 3 or 4 different hosting solutions where I go, man, I'm really confident in there. I'm really comfortable there. We could do that for you. But if someone came to me with something else, we can do it, but the price is probably going to be a little higher. It's just because it requires more time.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah.
But I think the position I would put you there is, if I had a client and they say, well, I'm thinking of building a membership learning management system, I've heard that you're the guy, Kurt, to help out with this. What's your advice about hosting? Well, here's 4 providers that I think could provide you the level of hosting that you would require, and they go off and buy it.
Yep.
I think
That
that's
works.
totally. I don't agree with. I've had clients come to me, and they've been blackmailed. Basically, they don't even know where the site's hosted. They don't even have login details. They know nothing, and the person, they've got into dispute, and I don't get into the ins and outs of it, and they're ghosted. And it happens. You wouldn't do it. I know other people that you're a professional, but I've known other people, and it's not always, but you normally get what you pay for, but not always. And they've gone with offshore, very cheap, developer talent, and the project has got a bit difficult, and these people have just disappeared.
Yeah.
They've
I think it's super important for people that are listening to this part of our conversation. It comes down to the questions and the communication you're having with the person that you think is your developer. As in, ask them, what's the exit strategy look like? What happens when we decide to move? What happens if something happens to you? Like, are you the person at your company, or is there someone else to talk to if we can't find you? Those are totally acceptable questions and things that I expect my clients to ask.
Yeah. So I think Kurt doesn't agree with me. It's a grey area, but I just think it's best that you buy the hosting, or you get the hosting at WP-Tonic. It was a thing, but we make it really clear that you give us notice and we'll move it. You give us a month's notice and we'll move it. It's clear cut. So I think in some ways you're right, because you could say that WP-Tonic's in that area. So it's a bit grey, isn't it? So fair enough. I think we're going to go for our break. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
Tired of hosting providers that can't handle high traffic loads? Conversio is here to help. Our platform can handle any amount of traffic, all without slowing down or crashing. With immediate Slack support, performance optimization, and a team that thrives on resolving technical challenges, your e-commerce business is in safe hands. Learn more about Conversio at conversio.com.
We're coming back, folks. We've had a feast of knowledge. I've been waffling on. I've got a long list here. We need to hurry it up, I think. But before we go into the meat and potatoes, I just want to point out that if you're looking to host your website and get email, get a suite of the best modules, plugins, all licensed, all paid for you, plus white onboarding service and a host of other services and consultation. Why don't you look at hosting your membership learning management system community website with WP-Tonic? That's what we specialize in. That's what our passion is. We love you to become part of the tribe. So, content management systems, well, WordPress, or you'll be looking at Kajabi, or you'll be looking at Circle, Podia. How do you pronounce
Podia.
it? Podia.
Podia.
But I like Podia. I think of the cloud, I think it's Kajabi or Podia. I think they're the two leaders. If you're looking to really build a membership website on the cloud, and we can't persuade you to look at WordPress, fair enough. Like I say, it's grey, folks. So if you're committed to the cloud, I think they're two good solutions. If you're looking at community and and you won't look at Buddy Boss, I think obviously it's Mighty Networks and Circle. They're the two leaders out there. There's a couple others, and there's a couple in them. No, the reason why we kind of exclude Teachable out of it, and is I think that's a kind of solution where if you've got a full website hosted on WordPress and you're just going to offer the course, one course, and it's going to be, it's going to be part of your overall digital marketing, but it's going to just be one course and a separate product. That's how I see it. So, if you're building on WordPress, you'd be looking at a website builder plugin. I think in the end of 203, the beginning of 204, I think you really got to look at Gutenberg now, unless you're a professional like Kirk or who Elementor is still good, but our first choice now is that we advise people to use Gutenberg, but we use a third-party system called Cadence WP that adds extra blocks. Blocks are kind of building blocks to build your landing pages, your website, and the speed. It's the future. Cadence have done a fantastic job getting some great results with it. So if you're a web developer, designer, implementer, there's others that, there's still Elementor, there's still Beaver Builder, great people. There's half a dozen out there, and those that use them and love them. Divi's in transition. They're moving to a block scenario very similar to Cadence WP. But I think if I was looking to build my membership, my learning management system, I'd be looking at Gutenberg, but I would want it to be in a third-party framework, and I just love Cadence. What's your own feelings, Kurt?
The Cadence product is fairly new for me, experience-wise. I've got a couple of years in with Elementor at a higher level, and so my comfort level in making something at a professional level is a little bit higher in Elementor.
Yeah.
But if I had to be more transparent to the listener, I think over time we're going to see much more capability in this Cadence Gutenberg arena. I think because there's just a lot. We talked about this recently in a different show, but there's a lot of, I don't want to say hidden. It's not a game, it's not where's Waldo, but there's a lot of little things that are features that you can uncover or move or do in the design process. And I think Cadence is a really strong package. I think over time we're going to see that become much more comfortable.
And they offer a free version, folks, but the pro version, I think for one website will cost you about $200 a year for the pro version, and I would go for the pro version. But you can do a lot with the free version. They offer a lot. You get all the. I like to point out you get all this as part of the WP-Tonic hosting package. But if you're looking to build something more complicated, or you're hiring somebody, you're hiring us or somebody else, I think Elementor is a good choice because there's a lot of third-party integration out there, and it's a good platform. I just think Gutenberg is native to WordPress, but it's been going at a pace, and having a third-party framework like Cadence just mitigates some of the ongoing changes. So you've got a more stable scenario. And Ben and the team, Ben is the founder and chief developer at Cadence. he's a fantastic individual, and I think it's a quality product. So that cost you a couple $100. The hosting, like I say, I think from $350 to $600 will get you some decent WordPress hosting, and I think it's going to cost you about $1,000, maybe around that price if you go with Podia. If you go with Kajabi, you're looking at $1,100. If you're going community, it's going to get. That's one of my problems with Mighty Networks, because the initial price seems very attractive, but based on my experience, you soon migrate to the higher ones. But other people would say I'm talking nonsense there, but there we go. Membership, LMS membership. Touched it with Teachable, Thinkific. They're like, if you're only looking to build one course, if you're going to look to build a real business and have multiple courses and that, you'd be looking at the cloud, you'd be looking at Podia or Kajabi. With WordPress, the same thing applies with WordPress. If you're just looking to run one course, you'd probably be okay to just use a membership plugin. But if you're looking to build a real business, you're looking at a learning management system. And the two that is Lifter LMS, which amazing value, or LearnDash. They're both very similar. There are differences. I think for the individual entrepreneur, the sole entrepreneur, the coach, the influencer, the terrible term, but we have to use it. I think you're going to get a lot more from Lifter LMS, but they both do the job. And I think Lifter comes with a lot of free stuff with their free. LearnDash isn't free. If you go LearnDash for one site, it's going to cost you $199. With Lifter, it comes with a lot of stuff free, but you're going to want to take payments. You're going to take payments. You need the add-on, the individual. Have they gone up? They were about $125.
It's about $125 a year. Yeah, for the payment gateway.
You can just cough up $125. You get everything. We provide the universal on our basic and the infinity on all our other plans. The infinity cost you $1,200. We provide all that, and about $400 for the universal. We provide that. People ask us, what do you recommend? They're both great solutions. That's why we provide both. We've got confidence in both. But I still say that if you're that individual, you get more value from Lifter. That will cost, $200. I think Lifter does an Earth plan that's around $200 as well, doesn't it? So I think if you look at around $200, you'd be okay, won't you? What do you reckon? Either of them?
Yeah, the Earth bundle is a great way to start out, because you can use Cadence or Astra, or any of those premium themes, because it works with any theme. But then you get the payment gateway, which enables you to actually sell the course.
Well, that's the other thing, because that's the other thing. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. If you want to take payment through LearnDash, you really got to buy a membership plugin. They've got their own one now. They're flogging. It's pretty new. I'm sure they're doing a good job with it, but used to be MemberPress, used to push quite a bit, and there's others. There's the one, the colon, joint owners, the Lifter. What's their membership plugin?
Oh, Paid Memberships Pro.
Paid Membership Pro is excellent. I use it myself, folks. It's an excellent plugin as well. On to the next thing. Payment processor. Yeah. Well, if you're using Stripe, it's going to cost you 2.9. That's around slightly under 3% is the going rate. if you think they want 3%. If you use something like the lower plans with Teachable, and there's a couple. They're free plans. They're not exactly free because they can take on top of something what Stripe takes. They want like 6-7% on top. So be wary of the free cloud plans because they're not that free. With a WordPress solution, it's going to be through Stripe. You could look at using PayPal. What is the thing with PayPal? Have they sort, because they're in this transition, weren't they, with their membership technology? Is it still a bit iffy? Or
I still don't really understand the PayPal thing because
do you think they understand it?
They're slow to move, man. They got a thing called reference transactions, which you have to apply for and qualify for and able to take recurring billing through their platform, which is very strange to me, which is why all of my clients are on Stripe.
Yeah, it's just easier. If you have to, we do offer PayPal because we got clients in countries that Stripe won't cover. I like to ditch them in totally because they're just a pain in the posterior to deal with. Basically. So unless you got to use it with a hosted solution, just use Stripe, folks. And that's 2.9?
2.9, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Email marketing. Oh dear. Kajabi provides that in it. A lot of the other ones you've got to buy an email system. Email marketing is getting more expensive. Like MailChimp has reduced their free service quite considerably to about 500. Email, you want to be promoting email, you get this all bundled with WP-Tonic. With other hosters, most quality WordPress hosting providers, they won't provide email functionality. Inbox marketing or transactional to some extent. You have to buy a third-party solution. You get all part of that with WP-Tonic. The only thing is we don't provide inbox. I think it's best to keep that separate from your hosting provider anyway. But people, I just think it is. It's not. Keep your domain separate. Keep your email inbox separate from your hosting provider. I said keep your developer relationship, but Kirk doesn't agree with me. But fair enough. Well, there is no. It's all grey mostly, isn't it? But this whole thing. I think that's the one area that, like a cloud service, really. But what you get with Kajabi, I think Kajabi works for about 80-90% of what people are looking for. There are some people. There's some well-watched videos that are anti-Kajabi, and they talk. There's one particular lady that's had a video seen by about 20,000 people. That's very anti-Kajabi. She moved to Podia. A lot what she says, I just think it's absolute garbage. I don't honestly think she knows what she's talking about, because I'm not a friend of Kajabi. But I try and be logical and as fair as I can be. Her criticism, she was criticizing Kajabi because it didn't offer this intense email functionality that you would get with a platform like ActiveCampaign. But that's not Kajabi's target audience. And Podio has more flexibility. But the great thing with WordPress, with something like Fluent CRM, you've got it's enormously powerful. So there's a lot of criticism out there because they don't recognize this grey area that what suits some people won't suit you if you're listening to this podcast. It's more nuance, isn't it, Kirk? Isn't it?
The things that get me, like, so we were talking about email, right? Someone goes on WP-Tonic, they get Fluent CRM as the tool. They can put, all their contacts in there.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what we offer, our plan offerings, they're enormously generous, aren't they?
Well, that's what I was getting to. I mean, when you look at this Kajabi offer, right, you can have up to 10,000 contacts, 3 products, 3 funnels. That's limited to me.
It's a bit limited.
I think about, you and I just worked with a client who transferred her product over. We put it into Fluent for her, and I won't give out all the details, but I helped her build those funnels out. She's got like 20 funnels in there working. And it's all this automation and all this thing, all of her different customers and segments of her list and all these things. And when you look at a pricing table like Kajabi or Circle or Mighty Networks, none of those would work in that situation because they don't, unless you go to the enterprise version of their platform, which is, $300 to $500 a month.
Yeah, but in fairness, 80, 70, who knows? I'm pulling this out of my backside, listeners and viewers, but I'm just making a kind of a guess based on my experience. I would imagine the bulk of Kajabi's users are, but you've got to know what you're getting into. But I thought the criticism of this lady, that we'll rename nameless, but if you do like review of Kajabi, she's one of the top that come up, and she's had about 20,000 people. And there's a guy that makes a load of money from Kajabi through affiliates and through training. He offers training utilizing Kajabi, and he's got a video underneath hers, and he basically says that she's saying, and I agree with it, with a bit more what he says than what she's saying, but it's all grey. On to the next thing. So emails getting, if you're not on something like Kajabi, but Kirk has made a really good point. It's pretty restricted on their lower plans, what they're offering through the marketing automation and the email limits. Be aware. And the same thing applies with Mighty Networks and all these cloud platforms. The costs can soon spiral and out of control. Be aware. You're going to have the ability to control your costs much more on WordPress. So email in general, I just sense email in general is getting more expensive. I think a lot of them were after growth, and a lot of these accounts that just wasn't making any money, so they're starting to bun up the prices, right? Videos going up. I think Kajabi, I don't know what the limits they're in partnership with Visia. I know if you go to Visia, they've put their prices up quite a bit lately, and Vimeo are always changing their pricing structure up and down like yo-yo. Both great, don't get me wrong, but I think Vimeo's put their prices up a lot as well. Yeah, the way they've done it is they've really cut back on the disk space and the bandwidth limits. So because I think Vimeo offer a free plan, but it's like 3 videos with that Visia. But you even on the lower plans, you're going to be using a lot of video in your membership business, it can get expensive pretty quick based on my experience if you get traction. What do you reckon, Kurt?
Yeah, it's the video thing is always a question. It doesn't even seem to matter what platform somebody picks. It's where do I put all this stuff? And it depends on how much content you make and how much gets consumed. And there's rules with YouTube. Like everyone thinks they can just host it unlisted on YouTube and then sell it through their website, but that's against the terms and conditions. You're gonna get stuck.
Well, you got to use YouTube for what it's meant to be. If you're a membership entrepreneur, folks, use it to build your tribe, get you known as the expert on the subject, and then get them to drive them to your website, get them on a mailing list, and also sell them your membership. That's what YouTube's about. It's not about that's giving the wrong message to people. That's diminishing the value they're going to see in your membership.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. I would. So then you have to start looking at options that suit your pocketbook and your projected use. You know, and you and I have talked. I think bunny.net's a really good product.
Yeah, we combine it. We help you set up with bunny.net. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs what bunny.net is, but it's a great platform, and we help you configure it. And then it works with a plugin that we provide. That's about $100 plus a year, but we provide it as part of our Presto player. And you don't have to use Presto Player. You can just host your videos with bunny.net, and you can use some code that they provide and put it on your website. The reason why Presto Player enables you to import the videos into your media library, and then it's just, and also it gives you analytical data around who's watching your videos, how long they watch them. It provides a lot of good stuff, and it works flawlessly with bunny.net. Another one, so that's our recommendation. Have a look at, but you're going to say, you will start utilizing a lot of video with your membership site. So it's well worth looking at bunny.net, because it's going to save you a lot of money. It's probably going to be less than a third of Whistler or Vimeo. Well, definitely Whistler, because Whistler's more expensive than Vimeo, but Vimeo's bunning up their prices because it's a VC-backed company, a Dutch company, and they got into some financial difficulties because they were going for growth, and they just weren't making any money. And they got a new CEO, and the first thing was, we're putting the prices up. Yeah. So, but it's a hard one to quantify how much this is going to cost. What's the middle range Vimeo account now?
Oh, I haven't done Vimeo in forever, Jonathan. I could look real quickly.
Yeah. I think it's probably around the 300 mark.
I've had clients recently that went over their bandwidth usage.
Ooh.
And they got a surprise bill.
Well, that's a great point. This is the point, folks. If you go over with the bandwidth, they're going to really clobber you. Is that right?
Yeah. So recommended is looks like $22 a month.
That's if you pay yearly, isn't it?
Yeah, for 120 videos.
Yeah, it's just 100. That sounds a lot, but it isn't, because you soon get through that, don't you?
I've got thousands of videos now, Jonathan. So I look at this and I go, 120 videos. That's nothing. Start going live a couple times a week, it adds up quick.
Yeah, it's
for 500 videos, it's $80 a month.
Yeah. They've done it up. The main, it's not really, but this all soon mounts up, folks. All this mounts up. So I think we're coming to the end of this, Kirk. So any final thoughts?
I had a couple of final thoughts, and I hope that's okay. When we look at the SaaS applications, SaaS isn't my first choice. I want to be really blunt about it. It's not my first choice. But one of the things that Podia did in their pricing that attracted me, that I thought was fair, was they list what we would call staging, but they call them drafts. So you have the ability to have draft courses and draft webinars on their cheapest platform. They have a free platform, and you can create these draft products, almost like you and I would think about a staging site before launch. And even if you're paying the $33 a month, you could have courses, but if you wanted to have webinars, you would create draft webinars like pre-recorded webinars, and they would be in draft status until you elect to go to that Shaker platform, which is $75 a month. So what I liked about Podia was, for someone that's getting started, it at least gives you kind of that stair-stepped, budget equals what your output kind of thing is. But I still felt that there was a lot of restriction for the cost. And then I'll say it in a way that you might be a little too shy to say it on the show, Jonathan, which is weird because you're not too shy to say anything, most anything. I think as people listen to today's broadcast, they heard numbers coming out of our faces like, well, that's $200 and that's $100 and that's $150 and that's $300. But on the WP-Tonic platform, if somebody opts to go self-hosted, do the WordPress journey with us, Jonathan, they get all of that for the cost of the hosting.
Yeah, it's one. It's 55 if you want to pay month to month, or it's $35 if you pay annually. That's $420. You get everything.
So you want the CRM with email capability. You want to send newsletters. You want to have an automated email list. You want sales funnels. You want recurring membership charges to go through on a payment gateway. All of that comes with the package at WP-Tonic. And I'm going to be a little more emphatic, Jonathan. You don't give them a blank website and say, good luck. They can start out with they can pick from different templates. They can say, I want to start with this template, change the text, change the pictures, launch, you're good to go.
Yeah, you can be. Yep. Thanks for that. But there's another one. I've just done a review. I've got to do a video. Simplero. Simpiero.
Simplero.
How do you pronounce it?
I think it's called Simplero.
Yeah, Simplero. It's come on my radar. It's a direct competitor to Kajabi, but I've written a post on that, but I've got to do a video, and I've been doing my research on it. But I think at the present moment, there's free. If you're not going to touch WordPress with a barge pole, whatever we say, and I totally understand, it's either Kajabi or Podia. If you want community, and you, like I say, it's Mighty Networks or Circle. Some people are really passionate about Circle. I just don't know much. I know more. I'm going to know a lot more about Mighty Networks next week because we've got a really fabulous expert, and she's passionate about Mighty Networks. So I'm going to shut up about WordPress. And it should be a great show, folks. But if you're looking for cloud community Mighty Networks, I know Kajabi have entered Mighty Networks territory with a new product that they've bolted on to Kajabi, but I don't know much about it. But I'm gonna have to do a bit of studying on that as well. But they're the main players: Kajabi, Podia, Mighty Networks in the cloud. But don't be a little bit. I think Kajabi are more, in some ways, more straightforward. But there are strong limitations around email courses. You're soon, if you start to get any traction, you're going to be in the higher platforms. And I think Podia, the thing with Podia is it's a more simpler platform than Kajabi. So there's a lot to think about, folks, like everything. So
they all have a learning curve. All of them have a learning curve.
Yeah, because like I say, they all have people that will help you build it out, give you if they were all that easy, there wouldn't be a network of consultants to help you, folks. So I think I've talked a lot here and I waffled on. Hopefully I haven't waffled on too much. Kurt, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and what you're up to?
Well, to connect with me as a person, LinkedIn is the main channel. I'm the only Kurt Von Onen on LinkedIn. It's easy to find me and you got me. For business, Mañana No Mas. Just goes Mañana No Mas, Twitter, X, Facebook, LinkedIn. Mañana No Mas is it. And mañananomas.com is the website.
Right. We will be back next week. Like I say, next week we've got an expert on Mighty Networks. It's all about community, tribe, building your community and Mighty Networks. I'm seeing the light. No, I'm committed to WordPress, folks. But I was committed that we would get the best experts from marketing, other platforms on the show, do a better job to give you a broad landscape. That's what this show is about. We will be back next week. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.